were there one or two questions we could take now from the floor? Just use your raise hand function or make a noise or sing out or something if you did have a question now. No questions, Heather? Right, sure. Actually, what if, look, let's just pick one out of the chat functions. Some of them did come up in Troy, in your session, and you did respond to some of the information around hog on. But one that actually did pop up earlier on was around the, and it was one that stood out to me as well. Mick Crouch had a question in the chat function earlier on about the reference to the emotional aspect of pig management. Troy, did you want to explain a bit further on that one?
Yeah, I suppose what I'm saying is that people don't always make decisions based on logic. If it was just as simple as killing pigs, we can kill pigs. The difficult part is that people place an emotional value on pigs and pig populations, or that emotional value leads to them not making a decision based in logic. The social scientists will say that that an opinion formed on logic is not changed by logic, and that's the way that we need to deal with some of these situations.
Thanks, Troy. Heather, were there any other specific ones you wanted to highlight out of the questions in the chat function? Just noting while we're waiting, a couple of comments. One I agree with from Trevor Meldrum there in Cape York, Weeds and Ferals about the importance of long-term management plans. You know, ultimately, when we can talk about 10, 20, 30-year plans, that's a lot more ideal. We know the challenges of short-term programs at times. So, look, hopefully, well, my outlook is that the basis of this plan will help influence longevity of national plans such as this. But yeah, good point, Trevor.
I think there was a question raised in relation to repeated flight measurement and population reduction in terms of animals learning that we know what the helicopter means and avoiding.
Yep. Just while we're on that one, we've got a hand up. Ian Evans, can we go to you for a live question from the floor?
Yeah, thanks, Ricky. Well, a question or a comment, pardon me, a comment as much as a question, which is a request, that we firstly, and someone I think from ACTA made the point that we need to make sure we're comparing apples with apples if we're just looking at cost per kilo of bait for 1080 versus sodium nitrite, hog on. And because that's from my perspective on it is that particularly where we're using grain as the attractant and at the high rates we use 1080 for dogs, the risk of non-target kills is significantly greater. Now, for those that, and most people here I would expect have had some experience with wild dogs, and to be perfectly honest with you, you know, if all you've worried about is feral pigs, then when you get dogs, it'll make you wish you had pigs again. And my concern is that if we risk non-target or inadvertent abuse of 1080, which risks our access to it long term, and 1080 from a canid perspective, dogs, foxes, it's a beautiful toxin. It takes exquisitely little of it to kill them. Most of our natives at the dog rates are quite tolerant of it, and it's cheap, and that's the other factor of it. So, and I'm sort of pleading that we try and spread the load on the toxin beyond just the simple cost per kilo basis. Think longer term, because if you're a wild dog and foxes affected producer, think what life will be like without 1080.
Thanks, Ian. Troy or Stu or even Heather, did you want to have any comment or response to Ian?
I think part of this is also ensuring that we do have availability of baits for feral pigs, and making sure, of course, when we're applying feral pig baits, that having the integrated approach in terms of what else is out in the environment. It's not just, it might not just be for feral pigs that you're managing. You may be managing feral pigs for a wild dog perspective as well. But I think that the availability of 1080, for example, for feral pigs is one of those things that needs to be maintained. There are lots of people who do utilise 1080, and making sure that we've got it available for feral pigs is of high need. This is the comment.
I suppose, all I could say, Ricky, was that I can really only speak for New South Wales, but there's a lot of rules, a lot of processes in place around the way that we use 1080. And there's also a high rate of use of it, particularly in, the grain growing areas in New South Wales and in Western areas. And yes, we need to be careful about how we use it, I suppose is what I'm going to say. I agree with Ian. But it is a very effective control technique. My point about the cost per kilo is just to think about the scale you need to work at to get to that 70%, because it's something that continually surprises me when we go into a particular area, a particular project. There are always more than you think, and you always need more than you think. That was my point.
Thanks, Troy. And thanks, Ian, for the comment and question. Yes. Look, I'm going to fit in one more question, Heather, and it's just good timing. I think the last one here from Bradley Pine, whether, Troy, it's something you wanted to respond to first. So Bradley's asking, can we talk about the problem of measuring bait weight versus concentration of poison? And the example is if hog on is $40 a kilo and 1080 is $3.50 a kilo, doesn't that actually tell us how much it costs per animal and which is the most cost effective?
Okay. Which is the most cost effective? That's the question?
Probably more so about the problem of measuring the weight of the bait versus concentration of the poison. And please, Bradley, if you're able to, if I'm misinterpreting it, just
I'm not sure.
I think the simple basis is what's the cost per dead animal, per dead pig, for each of the two different bait types.
Well, 1080 is a lot cheaper.
You sure? Give me some numbers.
Well, $3.50 a kilo. What's it take? So we work on maybe half a kilo. That's really, really rough rule of thumb, but we work on half a kilo per animal.
Plus free feeding.
Plus free feeding. You still have to free feed with hog on.
Same quantities?
Should do. And then there's also the hog on placebo as well. You need to factor that in. Hog on's still a good product. I'm not knocking hog on. I'm just saying that you need to remember the scale that you need to operate on to get to your 70%, and that's all. And if you've got a really big area, then hog on might not be the best thing. That's all.
Thanks, Troy. What we might do, please, Heather and Narelle, just confirm if we can make sure we've got all the questions in the chat functions and the relevant people that have asked the questions, that we can follow up with responses and have them posted to the National Feral Pigs website. What is it? feralpigs.com.au. I'll also direct people to go and have a look at the National Feral Pig various social media pages on LinkedIn and Twitter. I think it is, Heather. But
That's right.
yeah, your main sort of one to go is go and have a look at the website. Narelle and Heather will be following up with the forum outcomes, and we'll make sure they're communicated. I know people might have other meetings to jump onto, so I want to wrap us up here. I just wanted to thank Narelle and Heather for putting this together, and special thanks to Troy and Stu for a lot of information in a short amount of time. Again, we've had over 200 people registered to attend this, so thanks to everyone for your time, and we look forward to being in touch with everyone and down the track with our next information session. So again, thanks to speakers and everyone that attended, and we'll all be in touch with you soon via those platforms I mentioned. Thanks everyone, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.